That's right, this is NFL Straya. That just got way long on us, but that was good. That was probably one of my best, I'll say. This is NFL Straya. I am your co-host, Jaymz Clements. I'm a guy here in the Chateau de la Mort Studios, in the Studs, a.k.a. I've moved myself upstairs because the internet's better, which is good. So just in a spare bedroom. On the other side of this here screen, it is a bloke who's turned a new leaf in 2025.
New leaf, have I?
And when I say a new leaf, I mean he's wearing pants and he's not drunk and it's only 2 p.m. So it is sometimes singer in a band called The Ramshackle Army. He is my mate. He is your mate. It is Fly Eagles Fly. Gaz. Yeah. Gaz, what's going on?
I've got a Tanner McKee tattoo now, mate. It's only been a week and a half, and I'm like, I'm all in. That's good. It's good. We're a couple of weeks into the year. Regular season's over. Playoffs starting. I'm trying to ignore the fact that I'm technically kind of back at work, and we're doing this during the middle of the day. And it's good times. It's been some good football this week.
What are you going to do? Fire yourself? Come on, man.
I know, that's true. What a slack-ass prick, part-timers.
Love it. Anyway, this is the Week 18 wrap show because the regular season is done. But that just means that we have, my favourite time of year, Super Wild Card Weekend. It's been 2 years and 3 years, I think, and I'm still just stoked with the Super Wild Card idea. Anyway, we're going to wrap up Week 18 very quickly because, most of the games are a bit rubbish, but we had some cracking ones in there too. So we'll do all of the wraps, blah, 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 blah. We'll do some yeah-nahs, which will be some playoff questions specifically. We've got the weekly awards because we're just people knocking down the door. And then we'll do the Super Wildcard Weekend picks. But, I think primarily my favourite thing about this season is that we are diametrically opposed, you and I, Gaz. The Pats, I'm wearing the hat, one of their worst seasons in living memory. Fired a coach. Feeling pretty good. We're just one of those rabble franchises now. And your Eagles are absolutely flying to what will undoubtedly be a Super Bowl win. And here we are. So
you're going to enjoy my pain just as I enjoyed your pain this week when you were like, we won. What the fuck? What are we doing? Literally, what are we fucking doing?
Yeah, we'll get to that in 1 second. All right. This is episode 118 of NFL Straya. Let's go. Can I have a job? This is Jared Mayo, and you're listening to NFL Straya.
I'm really on a knife's edge here, Jim, about what comments you're going to make this week that may be considered insensitive and questionable. So I'm sure you'll get really close to this line at some point during this episode, but I'm going to...
So before I sat down, I'm like, took a deep breath. Took a deep breath. Let's just start there. Fuck it. Let's just.
All right, fuck it. It's
the Patriots winning over Buffalo this week cost them the number one pick in the draft. They slip all the way to 4. As we were messaging back and forth, as this was all going on, as I said to you, you could see it fucking coming a mile away. To the point where I bet on the Pats because I'm just like, if they're going to fuck me over, I'm going to make some money from it, you little ripper. So I did, and that was all well and good. It still doesn't make me any less fucking angry that they're just so dumb and so just powerless to get out of their own way of being Lovey Smith. And that's exactly what happened, right? Lovey Smith did this to the Texans a couple of years ago. Actually worked out okay for the Texans because it gave them the 2 pick, I think, which is what they used on Stroud. But by the same token, just limiting, there's a really just weird, stupid football brain with this sort of shit. It's like, there's no tanking in the NFL. But there fucking kind of should be in week 18, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
even if it's not intentional, you just go, right. We were playing our man Joe Milton. It was awesome. He looked awesome. He's just fucking doing cool shit every so often.
Backflips as a quarterback. What the settle down, bro?
He also wasn't that good. But still, the vibes of this were just oh God. Oh, but you see, you can't get your coaches and your players to, play any less hard. Oh, but you kind of can. You kind of can. Because if you're going to put, the best way to sort of think about it, you run a business, I run a business, I'm in charge of people, you're in charge of people. Now, if I'm in more of a position where if my boss was about to fire me, do you think he would let me like just go, all right, Jim, you need to like do this 1 week's worth of work that'll impact the next 5 to 10 years of our business. But you've done such a shit job, like I'm probably going to fire you next week. Do you think he would actually sort of just go, this is a really good way of approaching business? Probably not. Probably
Nah.
not, right? He'd probably go, hey, Jim, yeah, just fucking sit this one out to get. I'll be like, yeah, I'll pay that. So, our Robert Kraft, and he came out and said, like, yeah, look, hadn't really spoken to them about, like, you know, what they were going to do this week. And so I feel like you probably fucking should have, Bob. What are you doing? So Jared Mayo coaches the Pats to one last meaningless win. And when I say meaningless, I mean actually really fucking meaningful, because it knocks them from not just the 1 pick, but to the 4 pick.
Mm-hmm.
But then you think about, like, all right, the 33rd pick is now like what, the 36th pick, and so on and so forth, all the way through the draft. You can't, like, even if you don't want to take anything with the number 1 pick, it gives you all the options, whereas the number 4 pick, not so much. So anyway, it was fucking stupid.
There was a couple of great things in this moment for me, right? One being we ripped piss out of the Giants last week, both of us.
Oh yeah,
for winning against the Colts, and then you guys did it the same time. In terms of tanking, I do get it, and there's always that, you know, the backwards and forward saying, even if the coach is and the GM are secure in their positions, all of these players are either the team's fucking shit, which is why you want to be tanking, and they're playing for, it's basically a tryout for their next job. It's either they're going out in free agency and they want to make sure it's an audition, or they want to stick around. So they want to not be seen as giving up and having that shit game on tape. So trying them to do it, get them to do it. However, there was a couple of suspect play in the Eagles game where, like, the Giants were kind of coming back, and then there was a really obvious jump offside by the Giants defender. I'm like, was that really to give us a new fresh set of downs to make sure that we won that game, so that you didn't finish the season with 2 wins in a row? But then there was one a couple of years ago with the notorious Dougie P one, where we had no chance, and it was a case of winning the division between what was it, the Commanders, who we were playing, and the Giants, and he pulled Jalen Hurts mid-game and just went, oh, well, we'll throw this game. And Giants weren't happy. But speaking of Giants not being happy, Jim, they're also not very happy about the fact that you guys won, because they move up to the 3rd slot, and there's only really 2 quarterbacks that are even being considered at that top of that. And they're considering that the Browns and the Titans are quarterback needy, whereas if you guys had been in the 1 spot and don't need it, well, then you could have been pried away from that. They could have offered you a king's ransom, and then now that's not going to happen. So they're going to walk away with, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Amazingly enough, the Titans end up with the 1 pick. Then it's the Browns, and then the Giants and the Pats. So,
yep.
Awesome work, everybody. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. Anyway, Jared Mayo got fired, sucked in. So we'll get to the rest of the coaching stuff in a second. But I mean, with the playoffs are now all set, right? So just really quick, AFC, the 1 seed's like the Kansas City Chiefs. We already had that one locked away. Same with Buffalo in the 2 spot. Baltimore lock away the 3 with their win. 4 is still Houston. So that's also the thing. Like, so Baltimore kicked the shit out of this Browns team, 35-10. And the Browns are just like, we're just sort of here. Hanging out. Check this. Here's Bailey Zappi. Like, that's how you fucking tank. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Anyway, the Chargers are in the 5 seed after Pittsburgh lose. The Chargers win, which is really, really, really fun. Good job by the Chargers. Pittsburgh in the 6th spot, and Denver kicked the shit out of KC. I'm going to talk about Carson Wentz a bit later on. So that means week 1 for the AFC. You got Denver at Buffalo, Pittsburgh at Baltimore, Chargers at Houston. We'll go through all the permutations later on in the picks. And in the NFC, you've got Detroit after their So I watched watched that game with the father-in-law, and he's firing like Minnesota's coach. I'm like, he's still 14-3. Like, I think he's all right, so it's fine. 2 Philly, 3 Tampa Bay, 4 the Rams. So that's interesting, right? Tampa Bay win, Rams drop, and that's a big difference.
Yeah.
It is a big difference because the Rams now play Minnesota, who are the 5 seed.
Mm.
And again, having to explain why 2 teams playing for the 1 seed, the loser drops to the 5 seed is just like
When they've won 14 fucking games.
it's a hard sell. But anyway, the 6 seed is Washington, 7 seed is Green Bay. So that means you got Green Bay at Philly, bold geez, Washington at Tampa Bay, interesting stuff, and Minnesota at the Rams. It is also brutal, like to win 14 games and go on the road in the first week of the playoffs. Such a kick in the dick, but anyway, we'll get to that in a second. Tyreek Hill wants out. Obviously, he's peacing out. I open the door. I'm out. It's like Tyreek Hill. Yeah, no shit. Right?
Yep.
Oh, geez. Are you a fucking sook again? Who could have seen that coming from the world's biggest fucking sook? You know?
Yep.
Just
Definitely true. But look at the instability there is what's fucking killed them. Just the injuries over. And when I say instability, I mean Tua is just not able to play a full season. And every time they've shown that they don't have much depth behind him, so they're literally the entire team, the offense stops anytime he's not on the field. So
it's weird too. You think you just go, fuck it. We might actually just like go back to the olden times when you could get like a Ryan Fitzgerald as your backup.
Yeah.
And go just put Fitzy out there for 4 games. Well, we might win all 4 of them. But at least he can fucking sling it to Tyreek. Anyway, but the coaching changes the big ones, right? So the Pats obviously fired Jeremiah after 1 year, one and done. Gronk was
I don't think we touched on it, but the fact that the statement was released so fast after that week, it was
3
like
weeks ago.
100%. It was just kind of like, when you save shit on your desktop just in case. It was like the fucking draft sent. Drafts written, off we fucking go.
Yeah, just imagine the tracking changes on that document, right? it's like Bob Kraft, all the other crafts. We're just going like there's like 8 different crafts in that fucking Google Doc, and away we go.
But I missed it. But did they say? I did see an article headline that they had to quickly cut away from Gronk because he was about to live to air. He was about to tee off.
He was about to fucking launch into the crafts. I think this is like the sort of weird thing that sort of emerged over the last couple of years, right? So the Patriot way. It kind of just turns out that it was the Tom Brady is fucking awesome way.
Yeah, right.
Like Belichick, fine as a coach. We get that, right?
Yep.
And I've always been team Belichick, I think, for a lot of that. But we've also sort of seen he just got fucking old and sort of lost his fastball. And when you don't have one of the greatest quarterback of all time as your QB, it's like, the standard is the standard, as Mike Tomlin loves to say.
Yep.
And if that standard's just like, I don't know what we're doing, then your standard's fucked and so's your team. So thanks a lot, Jared Mayo. And Gronk is just like, fucking about to go into the grass. And it's like, yeah, not a giant surprise there, I think. The Jags fired Dougie P but amazingly enough, kept Trent Baalke, which I think might be more of the problem because there was an amazing stat. So I've been on holidays, guys. I've been doing lots of rooting. But Trent Baalke, so Niners fans fucking hate the dude. Because he was just moron upon all morons. Just anytime like they went through that stretch of like, we've done fucked up again, it was him.
Yep.
And once they got rid of him, boom, guess what happens? They have Shanahan and they have success. And there's this incredible thing, I think, the 38 draft picks that he's had that have like actually stuck around and played. One of them has been a Pro Bowler. One. And it was Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
No-brainer. We have fallen into this and he's the obvious fucking pick, right?
Yep.
Like everybody would have taken him. So there's no fucking like, you don't have to give him really any credit for that. So I feel like you just got a clean fucking house there. And that's like a very similar approach to the Pats, right? Like I think you just got to start anew and just go, right, we need a GM and a coach. You got to get them all in the same timeline. Whereas Trent Baalke is going to bring in some dude and just be like, boom, 3-4 years later, they'll fire Trent Baalke. They'll probably fire that coach and then they'll just start again. It's the same thing the Chicago Bears go through all the time.
Yep.
Anyway, Antonio Pierce still has a job, which is pretty remarkable. Well, for the moment. I did love that he's like, yeah, that's just noise coming from outside. So until I hear anything from coming inside, then I just assume I've still got a job.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's just Mark Davis waiting for a check at PF Chang's before like you actually get the ass, Antonio. But at the same time, maybe he doesn't want to be paying 3, 4 coaches at once.
4 coaches, yep.
It'd be
And
4 coaches probably at this point.
Made comments like he learned this year that he needs to trust his gut more like he did last year. And maybe that was the quarterback decisions, the beginning of the season. Maybe that was part of it. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, we were all just asking you to grow some consistency with your balls. Last year, you showed some balls. And then this year, it was just like, where the fuck did they go?
You can't coach scared. And like that was the biggest thing with Mayo as well, right? There's no seeming
He coached confused, mate.
He confused. He didn't know his ass from his elbow. He didn't know it. Every time they cut to Jared Mayo on the sideline, he had a confused look on his face. He was like, "What? What's happened? What am I meant to do now?" Like, he had fucking no clue. Anyway, the Colts have come out and said that. Speaking of shit GMs, Shane Steichen, the head coach, is going to be sticking around, and Chris Ballard. So if you want a fucking shit GM, Gaz, there you go. How, like, I don't know if he's like Jim Irsay's fucking AA sponsor or fucking something like that, but how that guy still has a job is absolutely insane. Because I've got a couple of favorite stats about this Colts gig that Chris Ballard's had. So my favorite, well, I guess where have they finished in the AFC since he took over? 14th, 6th, 10th, 7th, 8th, 15th, 10th, and 9th. My favorite stat, however, is quite literally since he took over, everybody in the AFC South, guys, the AFC South, notoriously fickle and shit, everybody else has won the division at least twice.
Oh.
At least twice. Everybody else, that's fucking the Jags. That's the Titans. And Houston have won it like 6 times. So they've not won it once under Chris Ballard, and he somehow still has a fucking job, even though he's like, oh, we'll keep recycling through fucking old-ass quarterbacks who are shit. Oh, now I've actually got a chance to draft one. He drafts a project who actually turns out again might be shit. And it's like, how does he keep getting away with this? Like, does he hold one of Jim Irsay's guitars hostage or something? Like, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, so still got a job, though. Good on him.
Pat on the back.
Get paid. Amazing enough, they did fire Gus Bradley, though, their defensive coordinator. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like it was exactly like the defense, which was the big problem. But
no.
Here we are.
Yeah.
And the other fun one is that the Bears want to chat with Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, so Mike McCarthy's not. So he's not immediately out of the Cowboys, and his exclusivity period is his contract ends on the 14th of January, I think it is, and so they've requested to chat to him, and then are waiting for the Cowboys' response. And then if they say no, they're just going to fucking talk to him after the 14th anyway. So it's kind of like the Bears, who aren't known as the most
stable,
sneaky, snake in the grass organization. A little bit, how you going? Are they all of a sudden kind of trolling the Cowboys a little bit? Going, we're going to ask, but
because
we're going to talk to him anyway.
It also pushes the Cowboys to make a decision a little bit quicker 100%. As well, right? It's like, well, we want to chat to him, and if Jared's like, I don't like you goddamn Bears, fuck off, like, then you've got to make a call for Mike's sake at some point and just go, yeah, Mike, we want you to come back. And he's like, okay.
Well, there's been articles for it for about the last month, but it was mainly about the beginning of this season. It was kind of, right, Dak, right, Mike, prove yourselves. They get the deal done with Dak, which turns out to be a fucking cracker, which they're already going to be adjusting. But then Mike is kind of on this prove yourself year. And then as it gets further down the track and you realize that so many coaches are in shit positions and gonna be bailing, and it's some young coordinators that you're looking to push up that don't have the greatest track record in their first stints. Usually there's a lot of learning to do, or there aren't a lot of Super Bowl winning coaches who are going to be out there with experience. And then so the Cowboys start to look at the market and go, well, who the fuck are we going to take if we let Mike go? And the options are not fucking great when you're going to have Dak that you've just paid. You're going to have Micah that you need to pay. You've got CD. You've got to rebuild. Like, you've got all this shit going on. Meanwhile, the commies are set up well for years to come. The Eagles are kind of at our peak of the window, and the Cowboys don't like being third. So all of a sudden, the power is in McCarthy's hands. He's got it all.
He's also like a hilarious Bears fit, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, just get someone who's not going to really do too much.
Yeah. 100%.
It's fine. Right. And last, before we get into the wraps from this week, I was so happy. Like, so you mentioned that they had the statement on Jared Mayo ready to go. And I can only hope that that was because they're just like, oh, fuck, Mike Vrabel's already interviewed with the Jets. Let's fucking figure this out ASAP and get Mike in here and just get this fucking going. Like, that's what my biggest hope is, because I want Vrabel. More than anything else, I just want a fucking competent, awesome Mike Vrabel as my coach, and I'm laughing. My other favorite thing to do with that was looking at the Jets head coaching list of interviewees, I guess it is, right? And it just sort of keeps going and going and going, and it's just, I don't know. It just made me kind of happy to look at it.
Retread.
It's quite legitimately amazing, because if you go through it, it's like the Rex Ryan sort of stuff was pretty funny. But then once you get into the list, so they've interviewed Mike Vrabel, they've interviewed Ron Rivera, sure. Rex Ryan, he's pitching very, very hard for the job. That's fucking funny as hell, sure. Brian Flores, okay. Josh McCown, okay. Joe Brady, nice one. Matt Nagy, blah. Arthur Smith. Did they not watch fucking Arthur Smith coach as a head coach, like quite literally last year? Like, what are we doing? Brian Greasy, sure. Aaron Glenn, not bad.
Yeah.
Vance Joseph, again, we've fucking done this before, and Bobby Slowick. Yeah. So, yeah. Jets going to keep jetting, and nothing makes me happier. I love it. That is such a great list. It's the most Jets list of all time too. So thanks, Jets.
Funny thing is they're going to need a quarterback to come in here. Well, it's either going to be a bridging quarterback. We haven't even got to the games, and we're about 20 minutes into the episode. It's either going to be a bridging quarterback until they can draft someone next year, or whatever. So retreading Rex Ryan, even if he doesn't seem smart, it seems like they should be going get a quality, proven defensive coordinator to just take that part of the game off and build a quality offense, right? Like if they've got a bridging quarterback this year, they can at least start to put in the system so that when they draft someone next year, it is right. Because by the time the Jets are drafting, pretty much you're going to be overreaching for one of these picks, or you're going to get a project in the second, third round. So
yeah,
anyway,
I'll pay that. All right.
The other one that's obviously important is Sean and Dable. Mara's come out and said they're safe. So clearly it didn't matter whether they were winning or losing against the Eagles this week. They'd already fucked it last week with their win. But even with this season, the whole Danny Dimes debacle, the Saquon debacle, all this sort of stuff, they're going, well, you got us neighbours, so that's a pretty good draft. We're going to give you another go round,
bite of the cherry, basically, right?
But effectively, you're not signing him up for 1 year, because once again, they're not going to get a quarterback at 3 unless, I don't know, the Titans think Levis is the guy, and they reckon they can get something out of Watson in the Browns, maybe, I don't know. Bullshit, right? So they're either going to be rich, even so that the rookie quarterback instantly buys the coach extra years, right? So they're committing to Dable. It's not going to be a 1 year thing. It's going to be multiple. So anyway, Giants fans are okay with Dable, but fuck, they want their GM gone.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yep.
I feel like they've just done a horrible job of drafting, but Neighbours is awesome, so maybe okay. Righto, let's wrap some shit games from the weekend. The final round, people were up in arms as well. It's like, oh, geez, what's worse? Week 3 of the preseason or week 18? It's very fucking clearly preseason, you idiots. Settle down. Because Cincy Pittsburgh was still pretty fun on that first, was that Sunday? So anyway, Cleveland got the shit kicked out of them by Baltimore, 35-10. It was a bit of a laugh where I think most of it was Lamar Jackson going, hey, I'm the first dude to have 4,000 fucking passing yards, 800 rushing yards, and a bunch of shit in one season. Everyone's like, oh, that is very impressive. And then what blew my mind was that, I don't know, we've spent the last 2 weeks basically anointing Josh Allen, and this happens. It's Lamar's the MVP actually. And it's all right, fucking is he? Just let's see what happens. So
yeah. I
It was
mean,
a
we
hell
said
of
it
a
last week. We said it last week. When if you put their stats side by side, Lamar is clearly in front. He's got over 5,000 combined yards. The only one to have it, the touchdowns, all that sort of stuff. But you know, it's beyond that. It is a popularity contest, and Josh Allen's got all the talk for weeks. So we'll see what happens.
Anyway, good job by the Ravens, just taking care of business. They had to win, and they did.
Yep.
Cincy came out of nowhere and sort of they had to win to give themselves a chance, and they beat Pittsburgh 19-17 in a hilarious game.
Yep.
And I don't know, but Cincy just too little, too late. Like losing to the Pats, what was that, week 1, week 2, whatever the fuck it was. That hilariously put them behind the 8 ball from the fucking get-go, and ironically cost the Pats as well. But here we are. They finished 9-8. It was a fun-ish kind of like 19-17 game where you're like watching Russell Wilson, you're like, this dude is shit. And you're just like, what the fuck has happened to this Steelers team in the last like month and a half? And we've been on top of this. It was their fucking schedule.
Since the beginning of the season. I think the wild stat on Cincy is that they're finishing with the passing yards leader, the passing touchdowns leader, and the triple crown receiver in terms of yards, receptions, and touchdowns. And they're finishing with a 5-win streak and missing the playoffs. That's
the sacks.
and
sacks leader,
Higgins
right, as well.
And Saxley and Higgins was there's some he got something like the second receiver in the top 5 in terms of yards or whatever. But like all those crazy stats and still missed the playoffs. But Steelers, you're right. There was absolutely no offense from them. Like until that second half. I mean, they put up 10 points in the last quarter, and to be honest, Rusty had a fucking chance to move them down and inexplicably ran inbounds with like
and
what,
lowered his shoulder and is like, I'm going to truck dude. He's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
Wilson. You're fucking tiny. Shut up, idiot. Get out of bounds or throw the ball away. Do something. He's like, nah, check this out.
Yeah.
And cost them the game.
But after also Pickens, after a little bit of
again later. Don't worry
a little bit of a fucking out of a bit of a whinge, ended his press conference this week. Pops up with 1 reception for 0 yards on 6 targets.
Amazing.
Right.
Good stuff. So that meant Pittsburgh were not in charge of their sort of seeding. Really, it was all up to the Chargers what would happen there as to whether or not they'd finish 5 or 6. And the Bengals put themselves in with a chance as long as the Jets beat the Dolphins and the Chiefs somehow would go on to beat Denver. That one didn't happen. The other one did, which was amazing. So anyway, Carolina, they also beat Atlanta 44-38, hilarious fashion. I'll tell you what, though, Penix versus Bryce Young. Actually fine with this. This game was pretty wild and entertaining. There was just this was the most hands-off defense game you could see pretty much all year. It's like flag football kind of got vibes.
Both these NFC South games, just as an overarching commentary, is the fact that if you just looked at these teams and took away their records and knew nothing about football, you could not tell which two of these teams had absolutely no fucking chance of not even a sniffing distance of the playoffs, and which two were fighting out for the division. You had no fucking clue, right? Cool. So, Penix,
the Falcons did need to win this to give themselves a chance if Tampa Bay also lost.
Yeah.
And Atlanta just we'll probably be fine.
And both games were on at the same time, and they kept cutting to the scores were being blasted across the screen. So they knew it. And early in this game, the Saints, or in their side, the Saints were actually fucking handing it to Tampa Bay, right? So the Falcons had a sniff here, they just still Penix, fine. Bijan's been strength upon strength this year, which is he's becoming what they expected. And Drake London went off his fucking head. The fact that they ran the same play twice, because Drake London, being the tall motherfucker that he is, caught the ball over the defender but didn't get the second foot down, and they were like, fuck it, let's give him another crack.
Do it again.
And he did the same catch over the defender, this time both feet down. 2 touchdowns, 187 yards. Stats-wise, offensively, the Falcons were on this. It was just they couldn't stop the quarterback who got benched.
Yeah.
And Bryce Young, all of a sudden, he's making the fucking no-look touchdown pass in
Loved
the
it.
end. Sorry, not the no-look. Sorry, the Steph Curry
Ice
throw that
cold.
they could corn. Yeah, throws the touchdown pass, open receiver, turns away, hands up, touchdown signal before the ball's even caught. Like that was pretty tough.
And I'm happy for him. Good on him.
Yeah,
I think we were very, very sort of, look, it's fine. You get benched. You're young. He's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
If he's talented, he's gonna be fine. Weird sort of situation that both these teams find themselves in after this season. I'll talk about disappointing teams and shit later on, but yeah, Falcons, what are you doing?
There was just I know a couple of steps had to happen, but I really, really wanted the Falcons to make the playoffs with a $90 million backup. I just wanted Kirk Cousins sitting on that bench.
There's one thing I didn't actually hit on at the start, though. Like, I feel like all the playoff teams that we actually got, so the top 7, are ones that we actually kind of want.
Yeah.
Like, there's no team like Atlanta where you're like, oh, they're quite obviously fucking shit. Whereas Tampa Bay, you know that on their day they can actually kind of beat or at least hang with anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, they've beaten fucking Detroit, right? They've beaten Minnesota or whatever.
Yeah.
And like in the AFC, it's kind of like, Pittsburgh, maybe not. But like if you look at the other teams who are trying to vie into that, you're like, oh, fuck no. Pittsburgh at least will put up a fight against someone like Baltimore. So
yeah.
Anyway, next game we had Washington 23, Dallas 19, thanks to a Terry McLaurin last gasp touchdown over the top of the Cowboys, which solidified the spot for the Commies, which is very, 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 very cool. And I don't know, I enjoyed that. It was a good win.
It was strange noting that Jaden Daniels was taken off at halftime, and it was the Mariota show the second half. So yeah, the Commies wanted to win, and the other thing was at the same time was obviously the Pack game, and that was to sort out the seeding, but
6-7, right?
the same. The Love as moment he got a bit of a bump on the elbow, they took him off and had Willis. So it was an important game for both teams, but both teams were playing their backup quarterback. It was very strange. But the first half was not fantastic for either team. Yeah, 6-3. And Washington, with Jaden Daniels and with Eckler was back and all this sort of stuff. And you're like, all right, well, let's treat this like a preseason game, knock off a couple of high flying, move the ball, and it just didn't fucking happen, right?
Anyway.
And
Cowboys,
we got a lot of Trey Lance. So yeah, Cooper Rush didn't end up making his incentive target, which would have got him an extra $250,000. They got Trey Lance to see what they had from him, and Lance actually looked fine. He obviously didn't put the ball into the end zone, but there was some scrambles. There was, that guy can move his fucking feet. So yeah, fine. Neither team. Well, like I don't know how Washington's
we'll get to this
go next week, but
as we sort of hit on some of these other teams as well. It was week 18. So when I mentioned at the top of this wrap, right, it's like what's worse, week 18 or like week 3 of the preseason? It is like the Island of Misfit Toys though for the QBs.
Yeah.
It's like Marcus Mariota versus Trey Lance. It's Sunday football. Like that's not fucking good. Joe Milton against fucking Mitch Trubisky. Oh no, he's playing too well. Let's put in this other shit bird. You're like, fuck yes, let's go. Anyway, Bears 24, Packers 22. That was pretty funny. The Bears hadn't beaten Green Bay, was it 14 times or something?
Yeah, it was like 11 years they hadn't beaten them there.
Oof, that's more than that then. That's like 20 games. Holy shit.
I think that was, I think that was, maybe that was there. They hadn't won in Lambeau for 11 years.
Nice.
Anyway.
But they did lose, the Packers lose Christian Watson to an ACL, which is pretty brutal. I actually forgot to mention the Zay Flowers injury at the top as well for Baltimore. 2 pretty big ones, but not very good.
Yeah, and look, it's Alexander was for the Pack already between when we recorded last week's episode and the weekend. He went off and had arthroscopic surgery on his knee, so he's out for the season. Then obviously they lose Watson. They had Jordan Love go off with precaution with an elbow, but who knows what the fuck that means. So this is the prime example of like with all the media going, do you let Saquon go for the record? And in the first game, you had Zay Flowers go down. And then you talk back to last year where AJ Brown went down and we got our ass handed to us by the Buccaneers. It's like, yeah, I fucking get why people rest.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway,
right.
that's
I've got those numbers for you. So it is
okay.
the first. They've had an 11-game losing streak against the Packers have the Bears. So that's kind of nice. But of course, they have not won in Lambeau since 2015. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That is a long time.
Yeah. Anyway, good job, Chicago. Hilarious vibes. Cairo Santos kicks the winning field goal. Everyone's shitting themselves. Amazing.
Keenan Allen proved, I don't know if you saw that play, but Keenan Allen proved he will never be a quarterback. They gave the ball, like, oh, fuck it, end of the season, we can't do shit. Let's do a trick play where Keenan Allen passes it straight down the field. Like, oh no, that's Xavier McKinney who's got like 8 interceptions. Don't throw to him. Wrong uniform, Keenan.
23, the Texans, 14, the Titans. This is the Davis Mills, Will Levis show. With a bit of CJ Stroud and Mason Rudolph thrown in. Yeah, who fucking cares? Like, whatever. Texans still won. Titans horrible. They get the 1 pick. Good on them. Jacksonville 23, Indy 26 in overtime. The Colts win it. This game was just a fucking punish. It was like, even when you're watching this and you're like, oh, no, this could be like a fun kind of shootout. It was still like they were both shit enough that it never got as entertaining as like that fucking crazy Panthers-Falcons game, right? You're like, this is just, it's like Mac Jones. It's just not fun. And it's Joe Flacco. He's like, I'm going to let it rip. And you're like, all right, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, do something. And like, oh, okay. It sucked. It was an AFC South game.
Yeah, so unlike most weeks, usually I'll focus on the Eagles game and I don't watch Red Zone. I only watch Red Zone when it's not on. Whereas this week, I don't fuck about the Eagles game. And so I honed in on Red Zone. And this was one of those Red Zone games where Jonathan Taylor had 177 yards, but his longest was 17. It was 34 carries, Jim. Right? So you're not getting highlights. So there was, even though there was points in this game, you weren't seeing a lot of it, except for Brian Thomas Jr., who is like, that guy's a fucking machine. So there was some highlights from him. And then apart from that, who cares? Let's move on.
Speaking of which, 16, Buffalo, New England 23. It was just such a shit. Like, I'm watching this. So very similar to you, right? Like watching this game on the telly. And then we had Red Zone playing through the iPad. And you're like, this is all right. It's a good little setup. And I'm like, oh, I want to take that off the big tally and put Red Zone on there. This fucking horrible game on the iPad. It was just again a punish. It was football malfeasance. I feel like franchise malfeasance. It was just anyway. Joe Milton did a sick backflip, and you're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've now fucked ourselves out of the 1 pick. Good job.
That's literally, I think, the only highlight I saw from that game, Jim.
It wasn't good. Like, I feel like Trubisky was playing too well and Buffalo pulled him. And you're like, oh, that's how this is going to go, is it? Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah. It's like one of those sneaky ones. Like, it's like, yeah, we don't want you guys to have the number 1 pick. So they put Mike White in and he went for NFL Straya's favorite passing or yards and attempts line. He went 311.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, good times. And the fact that, I don't know, there was even a discussion of Drake May being in this game this week is when they should have fired fucking dummy McDum-Dum. Giants 13, Philly 20.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was wondering what was going to happen with this game because Drew Lock looked competent last week, obviously, against the Colts. Eagles had come out this week and Hurts hadn't make it out of protocol. Kenny Pickett has busted ribs. AJ was out. Smitty was out. Carter was out. We had Mailata, Lane Johnson, the whole offensive line. They bought Dallas Goedert back because he's been off on IRs. They're like, we'll get him some spins. But then Tanner McKee comes in. I'm like, you know what? Just put up something and we'll be all right. He scored a touchdown on the first drive, Jim, which meant combining last week, He has 3 touchdowns on his first 7 NFL passes.
Jeez, is there any controversy brewing in Philly?
Well, to be honest, they're going, well, do we really can we get something for Kenny Pickett? He came on, showed half of the game, and we get something for him in the offseason, and maybe Tanner McKee's the guy with the fucking.
To be honest, though, Jalen Hurts is still in the concussion protocol. So when did the panic bells start ringing?
Nah. He's started to go through walkthroughs, so he's still technically in it, but they're not really concerned.
No.
Yeah.
Sure. Anyway, the rest of this game was horrible.
The rest of it was fine. But the funny thing is, I'm like watching highlights and I'm like, Johan Dotson, who's been able to do fuck all, gets 94 yards. Dallas got it, showed some stuff. But then Anaya Smith gets his first touchdown. At least I knew who he was, Jim. The other touchdown that was thrown was to EJ Jenkins. And I'm an Eagles fan, and I had no idea who the fuck that guy was. And I'm like, sure. And I interviewed McKee afterwards and like, yeah, it was pretty good that I actually, last week when I came in the second half of that game, I was actually throwing to dudes that I don't usually throw to because it was like AJ Brown and Smitty, and I'm in the third team. And I felt way more comfortable. But yeah, look, the Giants, Tracy, they've at least found their running back. Neighbors got the rookie and the NFL receiving record, which is fucking wild in his rookie year. But apart from that, this team is fucking horrible. They invested too much in the defensive line and not enough in the secondary. So we'll see how this comes off next year. But I think everyone was just happy to not get any injuries out of this game, I think, for both teams.
Yep. Tampa Bay salt away the NFC South with a big win over the Saints, 27-19. This game was right down to the wire until the end where the Bucks put it away. McMillan had the big penalty after the catch for doing guns, then caught a touchdown straight away, and they fired cannons at Tampa. So I'm just saying, Gaz, cannons are big guns.
That's true.
If he lit a spark and then went boom, is that fine as a celebration? These are the questions I need answers to.
Yeah. It depends how aggressively you do it, apparently.
It felt like the Saints were going to kick the fuck out of him too halfway through this game.
Dude,
the Rizzler was fucking looking for a toilet to shit up, and he's just like, let's fucking go.
Well, 10-point lead at halftime, and you're like, oh, fuck it. And then, but look, Baker's done this all year, where he'll be like starting off a nice quarter, and then the second quarter, he'll just dump 3 interceptions on your head. And then he'll just come back and, I'm just going to go to Mike Evans 15 times. Speaking of...
We'll talk about Mike Evans again later, but yeah, the end of this game was very interesting where they've got the 8-point lead, and they're like, we're going to throw it to him.
Yeah.
He needs 5 yards. And the Saints were just watching this happen. They're like just watching it unfold going, yeah, it's fine. It's like, you're still in this game if you like... You know who they're going to throw it to, right? It's maybe triple team him. I don't know what the fuck you idiots doing. And the Saints were just like, oh, we'll let him do it. That's fine. Morons. Anyway, good job by the Bucks. We'll talk about Mike Evans again later. Then we get to the latest slate. Denver took out all the sting out of everything else, right, by kicking the shit out of KC, 38-0. Turns out Carson Wentz isn't very good. I'm going to talk about him again later. It is... Yeah, it's not great.
No.
I did love it when they splashed the stat up there, though. What is it? His 5th team in 5 years?
Yeah.
And it's like...
When you talk about sliding doors, revolving door moment like that ACL injury with that he didn't come back from in 2017, and then he came back and had a back injury, and he's just been fucking terrible ever since.
So when did the brain injury happen like this?
Oh, well, I think the ego outweighed the talent after that point, right?
But good job by the Broncos. They looked amazing as well because they had the orange crush unis, right? The orange and the blue looked beautiful.
Yep.
I think there's
Bonix looks
actually
fucking
anyway, but whatever. Bonix is good.
Did he start like 16 of 16 or something fucking wild? Like he was on point like for the whole time, and then adding 47 yards on the ground on top of his 321 and 4 touchdowns. Like Jesus.
That actually, So Bo Nix has the fun sort of scrambles every so often. You're like, oh shit, wheels. That's what actually Baker did to help save that Bucks game too.
Yeah.
Got it going running wise.
Yep.
Anyway, good job by the Broncos. They salt away the 7 spot for themselves. KC didn't give a fuck. 15-2, happy days. One
Yep.
seed anyway. Chargers 34, Raiders 20. It was looking a bit iffy there for a minute there for the Chargers. Then they sort of just put the foot down, and Juzzy Herbs was fucking awesome.
Yep.
I'd very much like to thank Juzzy Herbs. I was sweating out a preseason over-under on his yards. And he ended up in this game just fucking piffing it around. Like I'm like with the squids down on the beach here. Just fucking letting it loose. And he ran, was it 346 yards he ended up finishing with, a couple of touchdowns. And flew past the yardage over under, which was like 3,575. So he ends up with 3,870. I wasn't sweating it because I'm like, he just needs maybe 30 or 40 for this game. I'm like, just don't get hurt. Don't get pulled. Don't just rely on the run game. He's like, Jim, I've got you. And I'm like, thank you so much, Juzzy Herbs. Like I need another reason to love you. I love you. I love you, love you, love you, love you. So that was kind of good. So I'd like to thank him a lot for that. Chargers, good. Raiders, bad. Seahawks, Rams, 30-25. Gino making money. Because they needed 10 wins and he got a $2 million bonus.
Yeah.
He needed over 190 passing yards, and I think it was another, and 2 touchdowns, I think, and it was another 2 million bonus. So,
yep.
Drinks on Gino.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Why not?
Rams, they were kind of like, whatever, bro. We're fine.
Still not in the playoffs, though.
True. Yeah, you're going to feel pretty bad, 10-7, and you didn't make it, but it's also fine. Like, I just don't think they were that good. But I did have their over from earlier on in the season as well. I believed a little bit more in the Seahawks than other ones. I think their over-under was like 7.5. And I'm like, they're better than 7.5. They were. Yeah. By 2.5 wins.
By 2.5 wins.
Thank you.
But also, Jimmy G sighting.
Love
We're
that.
talking about the quarterback carousel of this in week 18. Like,
I did love it as
Jimmy
well.
G.
It's like they're like, oh yeah, look, these 2 guys, Matt Stafford and Jimmy Garoppolo, they've both been in big games. It's like, Matt's only won them, whereas Jimmy G has not. No. He watched Tom Brady win big games, but that's fine.
He made it to a Super Bowl. Didn't win it, but he made it.
He's handsome. Anyway, Dolphins 20, Jets 32. Just a year of ignominy comes to an end for the Dolphins. The Jets hilariously go to 5-12.
Fucking said in my picks when you were picking everything last week against me, and I said Aaron Rodgers showing up in what could be the last game of his career, definitely one big middle finger to the Jets, and he's gonna come out and win this fucking game. 4 touchdowns, looks like vintage Rodgers. They had some of the dumbest fucking plays known about. The Devonta Adams, like the toss to Devonta Adams, that then gets passed backwards, that then gets thrown to Devonta Adams, and he gets hit in the backfield, like fucking instantly gets cleaned up. Dumbest dog shit. But apart from that, 4 TD, he was scrambling around a little bit. Was Aaron? He looked good.
Also got the 500 touchdown club.
That's it. That's exactly it.
I'd also like, opposite of the Juzzy Herbs, Aaron Rodgers did not help out your mate, Jim, because Garrett Wilson over under for his season-long touchdowns. What do you think that was? He finished with 7.
One less than you wanted.
He finished with 7. It was 7.5. And I was
shit.
I was so all over it. Then, of course, they fucking trade for Devontae Adams mid-season and it falls off a fucking cliff. There's our Garrett Wilson. And, of course, fucking dipshit Rodgers spends all of this game throwing it to his fucking mates as opposed to my beloved Garrett Wilson, who falls a half touchdown short of his season-long number.
Oof.
Thanks a lot. Fuckwit.
Well, the weird thing for me about
Aaron Rodgers the fuckwit just in general, specifically here, give the ball to Garrett. What are you doing, mate? He got one to Breece Hall. That was nice, but yeah, otherwise.
But Aaron Rodgers, the good bloke, has said that he's going to make his decision before free agency in March, which is great because he's one of my dynasty quarterbacks and I need to know before the draft.
Anyway.
What the fuck you mate Gaz got to do?
This game was horrible, and like Dolphins fans are like sick. The Jets fans are just like, what are we doing? And it's like just a shit show. Another shit show. Cardinals 47, their highest score of the year over the Niners 24. Amazingly though, so I think Kyler Murray needed, in terms of rushing yards, he needed like 50 rushing yards, I think, and like maybe one more touchdown for his next big bonus, but didn't get there. I think ended up, rushing for 22, no touchdown. And it's one of those ones like, I think the bonuses and incentives probably mean a lot more to players who aren't on giant fucking money already.
Yeah.
Kyler's like, dude, I've already got fucking shit tons of money. All I do is spend my time playing Call of Duty anyway. Like, who fucking cares? So, he was, didn't really take it to the bank. So a bit of a tough one. Whatever, meaningless final game. Niners are just like, they've got like Garendo got hurt in this one as well. It's like, how many fucking running backs can you go through? Turns out it's a lot.
Yep.
Then finally, 31-9 in the game that mattered. At the end of the day, Vikings, Lions for the 1 seed in the NFC. Trying to explain to my father-in-law why they're battling for the 1 seed, but the loser gets the 5 seed. Just still makes my brain hurt. It's like, well, there's 4 divisions. The division winners get the top 4 seeds. Even though the Vikings are 14-3, they still have the 5 seed. So, makes sense. Still. What was it? The first time 2 14-win teams had played in the regular season?
Oh, there you go.
This was the Lions' best ever season, 15-2. And the Vikings laid a fucking almighty egg, Gaz.
So, Jim, if I said to you that it was Jefferson, Aaron Jones, and Addison on one side of the ball, and it was everything that is the Detroit offense on the other side of the ball, and this was going to be a defensive slugfest. Like the final score doesn't give that away, but the first half of this game was like, are people going to score? Like, what the fuck is going on? The Detroit defense were just fucking all over Minnesota. Just Darnold's face constantly, all over. Jefferson had no room. The coverage was great. They pushed the line. They were right on the line of some DPIs at some stages, but they didn't get called. And so, mate, they just had no room to move. Jefferson couldn't get into the game.
Well, the Vikings' biggest problem was 0-3 in the red zone because they kept getting the ball back.
Yeah.
Close. They had these interceptions. They had all their chances in the first half and they just fucked it. So Darnold turned back into a pumpkin. What was he, like 18 of 41, I think, something like that?
Yep.
And it just wasn't any good. I would, however, again, like to thank Amon Rasen Brown, my beloved Amon Rasen Brown, 1,250 and a half yards. So needed a few to get there. I think he needed like 75 to get there or something like that. Ends up with 1,263. So bang. Thank you, Amon Ra.
Yeah, so there you go. The stat line of the defense was that there's only 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss, but they hit Darnold 10 times.
Jesus. This is a beleaguered, injured as fuck Detroit.
Fucking hell. Yeah, they were.
Defense 100%, as well. So.
Yeah.
There you go. Detroit get the 1 seed. They get the week off. These 2 teams can meet again in 2 weeks, which would be kind of fun.
Which, in fact, is what Dan Campbell said in the middle of the field. See you in 2 weeks.
So I feel like this is just the Vikings having like a weird shit game when it mattered most. And I don't like that. So here we are. All right, let's do some quick playoff yeah-nahs then. Kansas City. One of my favorite ones here, guys. Will they be too rested? Yeah, no.
I don't like it. I don't like 2 games off in a row. And I'll throw back to that when that happens in the AFL as well, when you've got that week off, and if you get that first thing by, and you see teams come out flat, they just can't. So it's a matter of, I guess, keeping those dudes interested. That's why I was like, not interested, sorry, hungry. And when you get guys who have to sit for a week, like I'm actually all right seeing AJ and Saquon and those guys on the sidelines, like fucking hyped, because you can tell that those guys want to be out there. So not having the week and then coming back the next week, you're like, fuck yeah. But then not having that week, then having a bye, and then still staying on top, there's definitely a risk of coming out flat, particularly at someone who they could be playing someone who's already played away, right? So they're already coming in hungry, already coming in hot, and like, yeah, it'd be interesting. So who's KC going to play?
So remember, the NFL playoffs reseed. So
yeah, of course.
So if one of the lower seeds win, like the Broncos, the Steelers, or the Chargers, KC will play the lowest seed, right?
The lowest total seed. Yeah.
And so it sort of switches around, which is always a little bit confusing and sort of fucks you as you sort of think about it week on, week out. But still, Yeah, I feel like if they get, I'm not really that good, but if they get the Chargers, like a divisional opponent who knows them pretty fucking well, really good coach, like that's where I'd start to get worried. Kind of everybody else, I feel okay. We saw them kick the shit out of the Steelers, the
Yeah.
Broncos, another divisional opponent, but at the same time, you'll be at home against a rookie QB. I feel okay about that one. So anyway, but I still, yeah, I think it's a little bit too much rest. 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of which, Bo Nix, he's been good. Do Denver, however, have a shot against Buffalo, or will they just be happy to be there, Gaz? Yeah, no.
I think with that week's worth of rest, I mean, you're talking about some of those Buffalo games this year have been fucking red hot. Like they have been very, very fucking good. That's why we're talking about Josh Allen in terms of the MVP. But that Denver defense can stand up, and Bo Nix is coming in with a little bit of swagger. So it's possible, but I still don't. I think it's it's definitely a Buffalo thing, right?
Yeah. I don't think so. I think that might be the one where it's like, hang on a second, because there are some big lines this week for some of these games. Speaking of which, Baltimore. Do they have the most riding on just making sure they win in round one? Like they've got this loser vibe about them in January, blah, blah, blah. Lamar can't get it done. You've got a fucking, Pittsburgh team that you hate in round one. They've probably got the most riding, I think, in the super wild card round, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're a wild card team and you get knocked out, you're like, oh well, kind of. We didn't even win our division, so be it. And realistically, it feels like the Texans are making up the numbers. To be fair, the Chargers are probably a year ahead of schedule with a new coach. And yeah, between them and the Bills, if your Bills getting bundled out first week, either of them get bundled out first week, you'd be like, this is a lost season, right? Yep. Particularly the investment, at least for Indeza to come all that way and lose that first round would be.
Yeah, I feel like though, if like Buffalo lose, you're kind of like, wow, they did have all these injuries on the defense. Whereas if the Ravens lose to fucking Pittsburgh in week one, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with this team?
Yeah.
Philly would rather play Washington in
You
the Super
fucking
Wild Card
messaged me
round
this.
or Green Bay. Yeah, no.
Oh, look, you messaged me this as soon as it happened. Look, I think I would prefer to play Washington. We did beat them convincingly first time, and then it did feel a little bit under control for at least the first 2 drives. Then it all turned to shit when Hurts went down. So I think knowing them, I'd be a little bit more comfortable. It's a different Packers team than what we played in week one. Completely different. But now you're starting to see the injuries pile up, and I'm like, oh, I don't fucking know. So look, we'll see. Yeah, I think I definitely would have preferred Washington, better the devil you know kind of thing. But they always say it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a season, Jim, and luckily we lost the middle one against Washington, but we won't come across them anyway.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. I think Green Bay on paper look more scary, but I think Washington probably know you better.
Yeah.
And this is not being played in Brazil. So, don't know. I feel like you're okay against Green Bay.
Yeah, I think it's 5.5. 5.5 is the line. That's the only one I've looked at.
4 at the moment.
4. There you go.
Anyway, for Rams, would you be happier playing Minnesota than Detroit? Yeah, no.
I think so. I don't know that like anyone particularly wants to play Detroit.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Like, I mean, they have been top. Like, even, for the first half of the season, you kind of almost felt like the Vikes were flying under the radar. They were undefeated, surprisingly, for a long time. But even then, middle of the year, they were like, yeah, they're there, but they kind of were flying under the radar in comparison to the Lions, who were always kind of there. So I think you'd have to say, yeah, we'll play the Vikes.
Nice.
Versus trying to control that offense.
Bucks commies. Doesn't matter who wins. Like, they're fucking stoked on this year. Yeah, nah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the commies are a year or 2 ahead of where they wanted to be. They've got a couple of players. They invested heavily in veterans in free agency. So you got guys like Eckler and Ertz, even though Ertz has come on really well in the last couple of weeks, who you're like, all right, you're at the end of your careers. This was kind of bridging to help, give Daniels a supporting cast. But what Baker and the guys have done at Tampa Bay, considering this gap in the middle of the season where they were just fucking injury riddled of no Evans, no Godwin, fucking everything was gone. Bucky is shown to be a hit as a rookie, and you're like, oh, these guys are, okay, what they've done is pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
You'd be pretty happy.
Nice.
Yeah, if you lost, obviously losing your playoffs not ideal, but considering that Tampa Bay barely fucking made it against some questionable opposition, and the Commies are ahead of schedule, like you'd fucking take it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's basically my way of saying this year's found money for both of them.
Yeah. Yep.
Finally, the Pats should have fired Jared Mayo when he's like, oh, we should probably play Drake May. Yeah, no.
So what, you could have protected him that little bit longer?
You're trying to just salt away the 1 seed. Don't play your rookie QB.
Yeah.
Just simple as that.
Yeah.
Anyway, wanted to throw some names at you for most surprising and the most disappointing teams. Gaz, I want you to rank them for me. Most surprising team, Washington, Tampa Bay, Denver.
Most surprising, Denver. Second, Washington. Third, Tampa. We said at the beginning of the year, we're like, we don't know where Denver's going to score points from because Cortland Sutton was fucking rubbish, had been rubbish. You've changed from a veteran quarterback and a veteran coach to a rookie who's got to learn the NFL. And if Rusty Wilson is he's not amazing now, but he could manage. How are they going to score points? And all of a sudden they have, and they've made the playoffs. Denver's fucking further ahead of schedule than I think you'd agree that the Commies are. But then, of course, Commies are very much ahead of schedule. Jalen Daniels has just been he's been a monster. And all those players who, as we mentioned at the end of their careers, they're getting they're revitalized by everything going on in Washington, and it's a good vibe story. And then it's hard to say that the Tampa's are surprising when they've won the division for the 4th time in a row.
Yeah. I feel like Washington's even more of they're 12-5.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's a really fucking good year.
It is really good. It is
and
really good.
I don't know, Denver, 10-7. That's it was a surprise that they're as good as they were because I feel like I'd bet they're under, but yeah. Most disappointing team, Atlanta, Cincinnati, or the New York Jetropolitans?
I think in this one it depends who you ask, because there's some fan bases out there who would all claim that themselves. Look, Cincy had question marks on defense, and we knew that they were going to come on hot as they always do with a slow start. So I think we kind of expected it. They just left that run a little bit late. But I think in a weak division, we kind of very much expected Atlanta. We'd almost anointed them preseason. And the Jets, no one expected that offense to be as fucking bland and fucking
gun.
Yeah, and inadequate as we had seen. Breece Hall previous years had just been untackleable. Garrett Wilson, you're gonna put fucking Aaron Rodgers with Garrett Wilson, then add Devonta Adams. This is a fucking mind blow. Nope.
Shit house.
Nope. So so since he's at least got the pieces, right? They've got all those stats that we named, and yes, the run came on that little bit late, but you're all right, you know what? Retool on the defense, get some fucking coverage. You'll be right, because you can go with shootouts. But fucking Atlanta, you've got a lot invested in this rookie quarterback now, because Kirk's, who was supposed to at least be the bridge for a couple of years, he's proved that he's not there. And you're going to get rid of him. So that's a fucking waste of money. And the Jets, where the fucking Jets go? They don't have a high enough draft pick to take one of the top two. There's a massive drop off. People aren't questioning the first round grades of the two that everyone's talking about. And so who are you picking up? You're going to have another bridging quarterback. Another. And I've used the word bridging about 130 times in this episode. But you're just crossing over gaps, and obviously invested in Devontae, and he's already known as going in as a package deal with Aaron. So even if if Aaron retires, he's gonna fuck off he's gonna go ring chasing, as he should.
Do you bring Aaron Rodgers back? Oh, do it.
He'd cost a lot. I think
what coach comes in and goes, actually, I'm fine with this.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, the chaos that has been caused, you're like, why would you bring that on? Like, why would you, the media around it, fucking Netflix special about his ayahuasca fucking shit. Like, you wouldn't do it. Nah. You want that clean start.
I'd contend that he is like the least enigmatic enigma that you could ever have to have a fucking TV show named Enigma. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You're the most boring fucking dipshit we've ever fucking come across. Like, Tom Brady is actually way more boring.
Yeah.
But there's like interest in how insanely boring he is, right? Whereas Aaron Rodgers is just like your run-of-the-mill fuckwit. Like, we know a million different dudes who are basically Aaron Rodgers without the athletic skill, right? And they're just fuckwits. And you're like, yeah, he's a fuckwit. I don't hang out with him because he's a fuckwit. Anyway, opposite of that, good bloke of the week. Who are we buying a beer this week? Well, Mike Evans can probably afford to buy us all a beer.
Mm-hmm.
But he also gets to 1,000 yards for the 11th straight year, which is absolutely absurd. Puts him second all time behind Jerry Rice. They needed, 5 yards at the end of that game. He got 7.
Yeah. Yep.
They put the offense back in. The game was wrapped up. The only thing that could basically happen was something bad. But also, like, how good is Baker Mayfield for sorting out his mate? That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was always, yeah.
It was a very cool moment.
You could very quickly go from good bloke of the week to old mate, no mates. If all of a sudden you go, I'm just going to hand the ball off a couple of times.
But it was good. I enjoyed that. Same goes for Geno Smith, who, speaking about, he can shout all the beers because he got the $4 million worth of incentives. It is amazing, though. I think the incentive-laden contracts in the NFL is like very different, obviously, than the NBA, because there's no guarantees for a lot of the NFL contracts, whereas the NBA contracts are fully guaranteed. Blah, 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 blah. It does have this fun little weird wrinkle at the end of the season, though, right? Like, we've had it for years and years and years. He needs X for this and that, and you're like, it's hard not to think, put yourselves in their shoes and go, fuck yes, give me an extra $3 million. Like, that's like life-changing money for the vast majority of the human population. And it's a dude who needs to catch like 5 passes. You're like, okay, fucking cool, man.
But also the conditional draft picks as well. All of those trades resolve at this time of year too. Amazing. So I think it was the Juzzy Fields trade only ended up costing the Steelers like a 6th because he needed to get over a threshold.
Yep.
And it became a 4th, but didn't hit it.
Yep. Old mate, no mates. That actually goes for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys for sitting Cooper Rush, who needed to hit a specific thing and would have made an extra $250,000. It is such a dick move because you're like, we need to look at Trey Lance. It's like you've quite literally had half the fucking season to look at Trey Lance. Like,
so as much as I want to, as much as I want to rag on Jerry Jones, apparently, following on from that article, if you look into the numbers, like starting Cooper Rush, the percentages he would have had to make, he probably wasn't hitting that number anyway. He needed to hit his 55%, and it meant that they would have had to have like something like 60 offensive plays or something like something that was never going to happen. So they're like, all right, well, fuck it. Like, let's.
He's ginger anyway. Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
One extra. Who are we buying a beer this week? Good bloke of the week. Colin Coward, Gaz. I don't know. Just jump on Twitter and just Google Joy Taylor.
You don't have to.
Wait. Did I just say jump on Twitter and Google Joy Taylor?
Yeah, that's a good job.
Anyway, it's not bad. But
Jim,
anyway,
I got on this morning. The news about Joy Taylor happened 48 hours, 72 hours,
36 hours
over the weekend. Right. Still today, I'm jumping on. I only use X for sports news now. And so I jump on. It's like fucking Black Monday, and I'm like, oh, let's go through and have a look at everything that's happened. And it's hard to trawl through and find some actual NFL news. It's just memes on
Shannon
Samuel
Sharp, Emmanuel
Acho, and just
and Skip
fucking-
Bayless. Skip. Oh, Skip. Yeah,
Jesus.
$1.5 million. I don't know. That seems like a lot.
Yeah,
but
we're
Colin
gonna
Coward,
make no further comment, Jim,
Who-
and let everyone do their own research.
my favorite. Yeah, do your own research. Colin Coward, though, doesn't pop up at all. Like, apart from, I think he was very respectful and very nice. And like, okay, that's not bad.
Not how he comes across. He comes across as a fuckhead.
My favorite was probably that Nick Wright's name is just not mentioned. It's like, that's going to hurt Nick Wright more than actually being mentioned. So
Yeah.
nice. Flog of the week. Back to that. Old mate, no mates. George Pickens, you hit on this earlier. Like, for a dude who talked a lot of shit, a lot of smack, and had like just did all sorts of whinging, he had more fights picked with fans this week than catches for yards. So yeah, I don't know. There was especially a moment, I think, in the third quarter. Catch quite literally just hits him in the hands and he drops it. And then he's like fucking doing another one later on. He just sort of doesn't extend enough. And you're like, I kind of feel like you're a fuckhead. Like,
Yeah.
But a really oblivious one. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you've got to feed me. It's like, if we fucking feed you, dude, you got to eat. Like, what are you doing? This is fucking stupid.
And this is after during the week he came out and like the bit that he took offense to, and for all of the things for Rusty, the thing that is the most frustrating about Rusty as a sports fan who you just want that soundbite. You love the drama. And Rusty is so bland and vanilla and fucking diplomatic. So when they asked about a play that didn't work, he just said, oh, George and I weren't on the same page. Right? And so they're standing in his locker and they ask him about it. And he said, who said that? You guys said that. No, Russell said that. You guys weren't on the same page. You're like, oh, fuck. Yeah, no, huff. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like,
just proving that they weren't on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
he just seems like the fucking worst. But at the same time, Mike Tomlin should probably win Coach of the Year for dealing with him in the same way that he should have won Coach of the Year for dealing with Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown.
What is it?
Le'Veon Bell. I don't know what it is about Pittsburgh. They just get insane dudes on that Juju Smith-Schuster stuff.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, they drag
awesome.
everyone, what's his name? Johnson, who's obviously just been fucking... Deontay Johnson. And there was one more that I'm gone blank on. No, anyway. But yeah, they draft these, find these amazing dudes who've got raw talent and get about 3 or 4 years, trade them off or let them go in free agency, and it's automatic red flags if Mike Tomlin lets someone go, right? Or trades them off, and then they just turn to shit wherever they go next. He's just got this uncanny ability of tapping into something right until it becomes the level of psycho that becomes unreasonable, and then off you toddle.
Love it. Aaron Rodgers, obviously old mate, no mates, but he's got his mates. So he's got some mates. It's the ones that he keeps passing the fucking ball to.
Yeah.
And everyone else thinks he's a fuckwit. Jared Mayo, obviously old mate, no mates, apart from Bob Kraft, who is still his best mate. So who's the hardest thing I've ever done? So, okay. Firing your spud coach, idiot. Rex Ryan, massive flog. If I was there, none of this shit would be going on. It's like, really, Rex? Remember the last time you were a coach in Buffalo and you were shit? Yep. I'm just saying. What about when you're in charge of the Jets the last time and you were shit? Like, what are we doing here? It's amazing. But my favorite flog of the week has got to go to everyone's favorite worst bartender, Carson Wentz. He was dressed like the bartender at a place that takes like fucking 15 minutes to make you a shit cocktail that costs you $34, right? And I don't know, you and I, in a surprise twist, spend a bit of time in bars.
Yeah.
And every time you see a bar, like Carson Wentz walked into this game dressed like the worst bartender in the worst bar that you're just like, we're never coming here again. Like, it's too expensive. He's a fuckwit. I don't want anything to do with this. I hate that sort of, and so you're associated with a very good bar in Northcote, Thornbury. And my favorite thing is, and like two of my favorite bars, you can be fancy about drinks without being a cockhead, right?
Yeah.
And one of my favorite bars on the planet is the Curtain, same sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously our beloved Catfish Gaz.
Yeah.
In Fitzroy, where we have our Super Bowl party each year. And you don't see some fucking fuckwit dressed to the nines in like a 9-piece suit in like all the colors of the, like, I don't know, the tanned rainbow, whatever the fuck it was. You don't have to do that to just be cool and be a good bartender and just serve me a drink that doesn't take fucking 15 minutes to prepare. And it just sort of summed up the entirety of Carson Wentz's entire persona. It's like, yeah, that's you. Like, you're that fuckwit bartender. Is like, no, this is the most important thing I could be doing right now, making this drink. It's like, dude, there's a line of 19 people waiting for a drink. Just fucking make it. What are you doing? He's like, no, check this out.
Check
like,
this.
Oh,
watch me.
It's a sack.
Watch me.
Boom.
Yep.
It's another sack. Yep. You're still shit. Boom. Carson Wentz. Wanker. Oh, man.
So bad. And like, it was a couple of weeks ago. I think there was an interview with Darren Sproles where they were just talking about, because now all of the stuff can start to come up, right? They start talking about the Chip Kelly vintage where he tore apart the Eagles and Sean Jackson was gone and fucking, a bunch of guys just got fucking moved on. And now they're starting to talk about the Wentz era because it's been long enough. And Sproles was just like, he was uncoachable, right? It was the thing. He came in with his talent and he did his own thing and he was bringing plays and, Dougie P could listen to it and all that sort of stuff. But once those couple of injuries happened and the raw talent just kind of wasn't there and you're relying on scheme and actually listen, maybe you want to listen to Andy Reid. Maybe he fucking knows what he's doing. To be fair, I don't feel like Andy Reid was given any of his best plays to Carson Wentz this week. I'm pretty sure that their play calling sheet was maybe 4 plays. It was like rookie mode of like.
Do you reckon Andy Reid saw him walk into that game looking the way he was? He's like, all right, you fucking serve up these drinks. You do the call. Your play calls. Come on.
That's it.
All right, Outback Takehouse. The Pats fired Jared Mayo because Mike Vrabel called him and was like, basically, you better get me in or I'm just going to go to the Jets.
I think there was no other option because you've just made going to make the smart move of hiring a fired former head coach who played linebacker for Bill Belichick to replace a fired head coach who played linebacker for Bill Belichick.
But at least, like, I think the thing is with Vrabel, you'll probably get the coordinators as well, right? You're going to get his dudes in who know what the fuck they're doing. He's going to have his people. He'll put Drake May in a position to succeed, hopefully. And he should just basically help solidify that defense against them.
And look, teams, the whatever you said about the Titans and they were a fucking train wreck by the end. But his dudes wanted to run through walls for him.
Fuck yes.
It was always that way. And you never got that with Mayo, right?
Yep. Anyway, little Aussie Butler of the Week, the Aussie Spotlight really quickly. We've only got 2 remaining, I believe. Daniel Fa'alele and our beloved Jordan Mailata. Because all the punters are out.
That's it.
Bit shit, but you get that on the big jobs.
Yep.
And in terms of what? Tory Taylor out, Dicko out, Hayball out. Did we ever get a final tally? Let's do a quick final tally on the punting for one Tory Taylor versus the punting numbers for one Caleb Williams. Tory Taylor finishes, because it was neck and neck towards the end of the season. Tory Taylor finishes on 3,911 punting yards. And here we go. Passing yards. We have Caleb Williams, 3,541. Holy shit. So that's an ass kicking.
Yeah.
Tory Taylor, legend. Captain Fantasy. So the winner of our NFL Straya Legends League, I think we were on this one last week already. Matty C wins it.
Yep.
He was, I think when we taped last week, we still had the 1 game to go, I want to say. Maybe not. Or it wasn't finalized.
It wasn't, but it was, Jez was not close enough.
Yeah. So sucked in Jez, sorry. So Matty C, I guess he gets the trophy from Matty O. I think that's how it works. So Matty O's going to sort that out.
But I think Matty C has to make his own T-shirt. Like Matty O's not.
Matty O keeps his own.
He keeps his own.
And away we go. He doesn't have to give him the T-shirt off his back. So that would be a very fun way of going about it.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you've smashed me in the picks here, Gaz. We had, what was it? I was
We had
6
nine
behind.
different. We had 9 different this week, Jim.
And we started off splitting them, basically going 1 for 1, and then you took a last minute lead. So I think you ended up 4 ahead, I want to say, in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Minnesota Detroit one we were different on as well.
The big one for me that I thought I was fucked, and I think I was messaging you at this time, was there was a 3.5 point line for the Cowboys commies.
Yes.
And the fact that they scored and there was still 3 points on the clock meant that they had to kick the extra point, and that sent it from the 3 to 4. And I was like, thank you.
That was the swing one early on between us. So yeah, thanks.
And then the Jets, me picking the Jets to Aaron Rodgers to just be a fuckwit. That was I enjoyed that week, Jim.
Incredible year. Right, so we've actually got the schedule out. We can actually put these in order because I was just sort of throwing them in there willy-nilly. We start with the LA Chargers at the Houston Texans. That is a 3.5 point line 2.5 point line for the LA Chargers. They are favorites, which is about right. And I've spent this entire time going, I can't wait to bet against the Houston Texans in the playoffs because I have not believed in them all year.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I do love me some Chargers, so I actually don't mind this. They're on the road, but they're indoors, and I feel like that's always one of those interesting ones. Like, yeah, cool, you're inside. It's very, very similar to where you're going to be coming from. You've got the better coach, I think. You got the better QB, I think. You've probably got the better defense. Like, I just don't like Houston's defense all year has been pretty good, but it's also been slightly hit or miss, whereas the Chargers have been fucking solid for a lot of it. So I like the Chargers in this. This is the Houston Texans slate, though. So maybe they'll just be so prepared to play at fucking 3:30 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon that they're like, this is our time to shine, boys. We've got this. So
Jim, you're the bit that you haven't mentioned, and it's relatively new news, so I don't know if it's escaped your ears, but there's a difference maker who's just been signed by the Chargers, who's going to get them over the line because of his vast experience in playoff football. The Chargers have just signed Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh, nice.
To add depth to the running back room.
Well, J.K. Dobbins did actually come off the field in that game, like with a knee injury, right? And they were just like, he looks like he's okay.
Yeah,
maybe. Zeke though, bringing it home, that'd be pretty fun.
As soon as they cut Zeke, it was like, rumors around that Zeke wants to go join the Eagles for the playoff run, and we're like, no, we'll be right. thanks, bud. Thanks, bud. I'm okay with Kenny and Saquon and Shipley. We'll be fine.
It was a very ignominious exit and finish again to Zeke's Cowboys career, where it's like, we're going to release him because he can go play for a playoff team. It's like, okay, Jerry, thanks.
Sure, mate. You're a champion bloke.
Yep, legend. Just all around nice. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. So remember, these are the two games on our Sunday. So the first one is at 8:30 a.m. and then the next one is at noon, which is very, very cool. Like, that is a handy time slot. I'll still be down in Lawn for both these games on the Sunday, which is kind of cool.
I might have to find somewhere to go have a beer at breakfast.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, wait, can I get the pub to put on the big screen down the hill? Anyway, Baltimore are 9.5 point favorites against Pittsburgh. That is a lot, but I kind of feel like, so Gaz has already gone Baltimore. Let's talk this one out. Can Pittsburgh's defense hang with them? I just don't know that they can. I think,
mate, on the game that we saw Pittsburgh play this week, they had absolutely no offense, no connection for the first half. Right? They showed a little bit in the second half and made it kind of respectable coming back at the end. I think they put 10 points up in that last quarter. But realistically, it was against a non-playoff team. And these guys Baltimore's coming into form. I think they'll do it. I think they'll cover the 9.5.
This was another pick that went wrong for me this week. I actually had, 1.5, and they lose by fucking 2. So, and the line had moved to the point where I think I'd bet it at 2.5. So I was spewing when I went back into our spreadsheet, and I was like, God damn it, fucking Gaz. Anyway, which is what I just usually do.
Yeah.
But just this setup, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, the games this year between the two of them, I mean, I'm just
What was
going to
on
go
the second?
Pittsburgh.
The second one was they kicked the shit out of them a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah,
right?
they did. And it's like that was kind of like the worrisome sort of moment where it's like, oh, geez. They're going to, it was 18-16 was the first one. It was 34-17 was the other one, though.
Yeah.
And that was like, 3 weeks ago. So,
Yeah. And
I just,
Pittsburgh's had the other thing too. Sorry. You've also got to put onto this. Baltimore's just come off a game against the Browns, whereas Pittsburgh's come off a fucking gauntlet.
well, they played a Bengals team that doesn't have any defense and they only managed 17 points against them. Like, I don't know. Pittsburgh just feels weird, but I'm still going to go Pittsburgh just to keep this game in the mud. Baltimore still win it. Pittsburgh cover the 9.5. It's probably just a few too many points. Then we go to Monday morning. Denver at Buffalo at 5 a.m. Eastern. That is an 8.5 point line for Buffalo. And I think this is my favorite lock out of all of them is Buffalo just demolish her at Denver. And Denver's just like, oh, we weren't ready for this. And Buffalo's like, we've been prepping for this one for ages.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm going to go Buffalo minus 8.5 over Denver. Look, just the rookie QBs in the playoffs, I'm just going to probably side on the side of an MVP.
Of experience. Look, sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the kind of the Cinderella story of we didn't see this coming and blah blah. But realistically, like this is where the experienced playoff teams
Especially at home. Yeah, right.
Yeah, should show. All right, flex the muscle now. We're just going to get past you and then let the big boys play, kind of thing.
Then at 8:30 Monday morning, the Packers.
I've already had a fucking whinge about this, Jim.
Packers Eagles.
Work back, holiday break, starting back on the Monday morning. Fucking Gaz has got 2 meetings that he can't move, and starting at 9 o'clock, and the game starts at 8:30, and I have to get up early to watch the Texans on my fucking Sunday. Anyway, Philly, I'm feeling good about where we're sitting in terms of health at home. Hurts back that week off. As I said, I think the boys are going to be hungry. Dallas got it back. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit comfortable, and then there's obviously a few injury niggle worries. Like it's a very, very good Green Bay team. I'm not looking past them by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, I think I'm okay.
It's all right. I'm going to take Green Bay plus 4.5. This is a 27-24 game that you.
Yeah, it could be. Yep.
But I reckon this is 8:30. So I think this would be probably the Fox game, I would guess. Yeah, they do the late afternoon. That's going to be unreal. I'm excited. It's a great uniform matchup, presumably. It wasn't a great one earlier this season, but still. Let's go the Pack. So where are we watching that one at 8:30 on Monday morning, guys?
I'm going to be fucking, unfortunately,
on a
phone
fucking
call. Work. Yeah.
Then we've got Washington at Tampa Bay in the Sunday night football spot. Tampa Bay are 3-point favorites at home against Washington, which is a really annoying line because I want to go Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if it's a push?
I don't know. That's
because I might go against you here as well. Because we just talked about experience and we talked about rookie QBs. I'm going to have to go Tampa Bay. I think there's a reason that they won that division again for 4 straight years. Washington on the road, just a little bit sketchier. They're on a 5-game winning streak though, I think the Commies. But Tampa Bay, I think I'll go the 3.
Okay.
What do you reckon? 24-21.
All right. Yep. So if you're going to give me 3 points, they've won more than. So they had games against the Eagles. Oh, actually, both of them beat the Eagles during the season. But Commies finished with 2 more games. Have a more dynamic offense, I would say, if Jayden Daniels is firing. He has had a couple of games this year where it was a little bit middle of the season. He kind of had a bit of a rookie downtrod, but I think Tampa Bay have struggled against some teams in their own division, which isn't great. So I think Washington can come over the top here.
Tampa Bay have won 6 of their last 7 games.
There you go.
They beat Detroit earlier this year. They beat the Eagles earlier this year. Ooh, I'm going to go Tampa Bay. And then finally, Minnesota Rams. This is a 1.5 point line for the Vikings in LA. And I think I've got to agree with you with Minnesota there, guys.
Yeah, I think they'll come back, be a little bit shitty after last week.
But wouldn't it be the most Vikings thing in the world if they have this incredible season, 14-3, and then lose in the first round of the playoffs to like Sean McVay and this banged up Rams team?
It definitely would. It definitely would. It just this whole season of when the Vikings fans have started to come and go, you've slept on us. You slept on Darnold. And there was comments on our YouTubes about you've slept on Darnold. And it just reminds me of 2017 when the Eagles, like the Vikings fans came into Philly for the NFC Championship game, put the jersey on Rocky, shouting "Skull" on the steps, and then came into the game and Nick Foles absolutely tore them apart. And you're just like, oh, yeah. Or when Kirk Cousins, the very next year, they're like, that's fine. It's our year this year. And Kirk Cousins comes out and lays a fucking egg in week 1 and they kind of don't really recover. Like,
yeah,
it's just a very Minnesota thing to do. Like, you've all doubted us, and then there's valid reason. But no, I think this week they take on the Rams, and
they should be okay.
It's gonna set up,
but that game really, really worried. Like watching that just unfold the way it did against Detroit, and that Lions defense, which is not much chop. Whereas the Rams defense, it feels like is, but yeah, it's banged up. It's missing some dudes, but it's at least fucking solid. So
yeah,
this one might switch later on in the week. Just saying.
The other thing is, it's weird to say this about a playoff, but it could almost be a trap game if Vikings do look past and go, you know what? We should be playing the Lions. Like, we're the top 2 teams here. And all of a sudden just assume that they're going to knock off the Rams and are already preparing for Lions, and fucking McVay could catch them by surprise.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. But for now, we're both Minnesota.
We've got 3 different into the playoffs. Here we go.
Gaz did end up winning the regular season by 9. Last year I did lose the regular season, but pulled it back to at least, was it 1 or did I tie it or win by 1 in the end, I think, across the playoffs.
I don't know.
So it's a long time ago now. But anyway, that's it for episode 118 of NFL Straya. The regular season is done. I always get that little bit of, I talk about this. I get sad. Because, but now you just get the really good games. I'm like, but I love the shit games. Like, the shit games are fun.
You only have to half pay attention to them.
What I love about the shit games is the sheer cacophony of football.
Yeah.
Like, this is, again, why I fucking have a daily NBA show, Gaz. I don't know if you've heard. But the entire point behind that is there's just a shit ton of fucking basketball always happening. And the cacophony of football, I just love it because you've just got so much to sort through, so many things to watch. So much stuff where you're like, that fucking happened. And then you just, boom, you get to the playoffs, you're like, oh, I say goodbye to all the shit teams. But some of them are fun. Most of them aren't, but still. This year I don't feel too bad because the Pats were so fucking horrendous. But I mean, I'm just now not going to think about like the Bears until like the draft. And you're like, oh, that's a shame. But anyway, there you go. We do have an awesome playoffs ahead because as I mentioned though, I think we've got 14 really good teams in these playoffs. So yeah. Hopefully, the games are fucking rad.
And the Texans.
Yeah, true. The one team I've shit on all year. Yeah. All right. In the meantime, though, jug us a follow and check out all the shit on Facey, Twitter, IG, YouTube, TikTok. Rate and review it on the old Apple Podcast, your YouTube Music, your Spotify's. 5 stars. I don't want to fight you. I'll rock up on your fucking doorstep if you haven't 5-starred this shit. Or I will. I've got very little to do at the moment, so I'll do it. So 5 stars, leave a review, just say, good on you guys. Good on you, Jim. Thanks, boys. That'd be much appreciated. Whatever app you're using the Android phone as well. Rate, review, star, subscribe. Grab your missus's or your partner's phone, whatever. Subscribe them. That's it. Grab your mum's phone. She leaves it lying there. Just fucking grab it. Subscribe to NFL Straya and chuck in NBA Straya as well. But anyway,
as I always say, just put it. Even if you don't listen to the episode on Spotify and then chuck it on the YouTubes. Put it on silent. Put it as a browser running in the background. We'll get this algorithm, but it's fine.
It's all good. Big thanks always go to House Hats for the intro and outro song. They rule. Get around all the other shows that we've got. The Cricket Today podcast has been going absolutely gangbusters thanks to an awesome, awesome summer of cricket. Go the Aussies. How good was that? What a bunch of Indian silks. Jesus. Bloody hell. Oh, that wasn't out. It was a deflection. Yeah, from his fucking glove, idiots. Anyway, what else we got? We got the Football Today podcast, AFL and AFLW shows. AFL Today shows actually, it's coming back distressingly fast. Like, I have done zero fucking prep for this season, but anyway. And NBA Straya will be back daily as of next week, so that'll be pretty fun. Gaz, what do you want to plug?
Mate, next week, not this weekend, but next weekend, I will be up in the Gong, playing at the Ramshackle Army will be playing at Illawarra Folk Festival. Now, fun thing, Jim. Usually when we play these sort of things, because we're a punk band who have banjo, mandolin, and fiddle, and some dancing and drinking tunes, as you've seen a million times. And usually we get put on a bar at the end of the night when everyone's pissed and it's going to be fun. They've put us at the stage next to the bars, but not actually in the bars. And the second night, we're actually at a shed as far away from the bar as possible. So there's actually going to have to be sober people having to watch us play. And I've just listened to the bands playing before and after us, and they're very soft and folky, Jim. So I got a little bit concerned. So we've reached out to the festival and said, do you want us to strip it back? And they're like, no, we got you here to be chaos. And I'm like, all right, you've requested it. So Chaos Gaz is coming, and Matty O's going to be there and share a bunch of beers with me, and it's going to be a good time. So if you're in the area, come to Illawarra Folk Festival next week.
I love it. The bands in front and after you are going to have like a bunch of dudes looking like Carson Wentz in them. So it's going to be awesome. Nice one. All right. Well, there you go. I can't wait for that. That'll be good. I can't wait for the reports back as well.
Oh, Matty-O's going to be like, what's this fucking dude all about?
Love it. All right. Well, there you go. Enjoy week one of the playoffs. Super wild card round. And what a regular season it was. We will catch you next week, you dickheads.
See yas.
Later, hosen.